Well, hello everybody. Mr. Anthony here. I hope you remember me. I'm not a former teacher yet. I'm still teaching. I'm on my 36th year at Seton Catholic High School. Some of my answers are going to kind of revolve around that aspect of it.
Hi, my name is. When I taught at Seton, they knew me as Mr. Sheridan. I taught at Seton from 1972 to 1977.
My name is Beth Paddock. I've been at Seton Catholic for 26 years. I have taught study skills, IPGHS, speech, theology, and English.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brother Dan Casey. I was a teacher at Seton Catholic High School from 1983 to 1986. I was vice principal there from 1989 to 1992 and was principal there from 1992 to 1995. When I taught there, I taught English and religion. Now, that was a long time ago, so I'm going to try to answer some of these questions that I was given for this video.
Hello, my name is Mr. Horn, and I have been teaching at Seton since 2009. Can't believe it. It's been a long time. I have taught a bunch of science classes at Seton. I taught chemistry, physics, never taught honors chemistry, but honors physics, AP physics, and a bunch of engineering classes too, which are really fun to teach.
Hello, Diane Collins here from Snowy Heber. I taught English at Seton Catholic High School from 1975 to 2004. And happy to be a part of this panel discussion about our years at Seton. My favorite thing about teaching at Seton, well, there are two. I loved the kids. It was great working with that age group. And we could bring God into the classroom and discuss him openly. It allowed me to pick literature, that classic literature too, that we didn't have to gloss over the religious part. We didn't have to skip talking about faith. That's what I really enjoyed. I could not do that in my years of public school teaching.
So what are my favorite things about teaching at Seton? I would probably say number one, it is a pretty amazing community and people honestly truly do care about one another. That and I think teaching in general just keeps me feeling young.
Well, when I first got to Seton, everything was new. The school itself was old because it was another part of the city, but my first year was the first year they were in their new location. And there was virtually nothing there. There were a few classrooms, office, and a chapel. Other than that, we had no gym, no cafeteria, no place to hold assemblies. And in fact, our assemblies, including masses, were held in the school driveway. When I coached basketball, I coached out in the back parking lot. So there was not much there. But everybody rolled with it. Seemed like everyone was happy. It was a new place, and it wasn't a burden on anybody. And I really liked that spirit. There wasn't much there in terms of facility, but the spirit at Seton wasn't affected. Everybody found it a great place to go to school and a great place to teach.
The students see that cigar, they'll remember that cigar, and I got to do things that you would never do in a classroom today. I would chew the cigars in the classroom, enjoyed the students, enjoyed the other faculty members. It was very family atmosphere. You have to remember there were probably only around 125 students when I was there. So, no, I enjoyed it.
Community. Definitely the sense of community and the partnership between the kids and the staff and the parents.
One or two students who impressed me. I would leave out too many names in trying to come up with two students that did impress me, but I was impressed and have continued to be impressed, even though I am no longer there, with all of the students at Seton, whether they are athletes, whether it has to do with scholarship, whether it has to do with organizations. clubs and activities and the things that they do in the community and in the state. So they're out there doing things and making a name for the school. And so I would have to say that I can't narrow it down to two. I don't know if I'm surprised at how this student turned out. I am just very, very pleased. And that would be Dennis Clinch. I taught him in the late 70s, good kid. And years later, he shows up back at Seton teaching, and I was able to work on the staff with him, and that was a joy and a privilege. So not necessarily a surprise, just glad that he came back. It did take him, however, many years to call me Diane. He always called me Mrs. Collins.
Very difficult to say just one or two students because I don't want to insult others who have done well. I will name some people if that's okay. One is a family, the Ryan family. I had, I forget, 3 or 4 Ryans, and there were others after me. Tom Ryan, Stinky Ryan, Tim Ryan, Dan came before Tom. They're a great family. You probably see Tom Ryan and Lynch, who, along with Tom Ryan, were probably the 2 brightest students I had. If I go through others, one of the things that's going to happen is you're going to hear me name guys. I was the baseball coach, and we were very successful teams, but therefore I spent a lot of time with the guys as opposed to the girls, and I don't want to insult any of the girls, but other names that come up are baseball players. There was Carlos Martinez, Tino Valenzuela, David Delsey, Merle McDonald, Freddie Buelna, and the late Gerard Guerin. Both Gerard's father and David Delsey's father volunteered, and they helped me coach, and they did a lot because I knew some things about pitching, but I couldn't hit worth a hoot.
I probably can't narrow it down to 1 or 2 students that impressed me, but what I have been impressed with is how many of our kids end up in a career that involves service. We have so many in the medical field, in education, in ministry, social work, first responders. It tells me that they really took the mission of Seton Catholic and continue to live it.
I don't know if I could come up with the craziest thing, but at least the craziest thing for me was that I coached basketball. One day, the athletic director came into my classroom and said, "Brother, would you coach basketball?" And I kind of laughed a little because I knew I didn't have much experience in it. And I said, "Oh, okay, I'll give you a resume. And if at the end of you reading this resume, you still want me to do it, I will." So the resume included such stellar things as I played basketball, not very well, back in 7th grade, or some level like that. And I coached water polo and swimming. Well, that was enough to impress him, and he gave me the job. I coached for 3 years there, and we had some fun. We had a few wins, but that was pretty crazy for me because I didn't have a whole lot of basketball experience.
I mean, there's too many things. There's really a lot. But things that have now become, I guess, politically correct. That, and not that things were ever bad, but you just can't do them today. But I think about things like dealing with, some student council events we used to do, the bonfire, and digging the trench for the tug of war. There was nothing dangerous, let me put it to you that way. But I just think just through the history of the school and things we could do then that now just really we can't do.
The craziest thing that ever happened to me at Seton was a theft in my room. 3 students took several life-size cutouts of local sports figures rather, and took them away. And they were gone for several weeks. When they returned, they came back with a story about their adventures in the voices of those athletes. And there were photos of them at shopping centers, swimming pools, theaters. There was even a back shot of KJ at a urinal. They had a wonderful time. I was glad to get my guys back. And then on another day, I walked in my classroom and the students had underwear on their head, but that's a different story. The craziest thing, or one of the craziest things that ever happened while I was at Seton, happened at a place called Grasshopper Point. But you will have to talk to Mr. Clinch, Mr. Sprinzel, Mrs. Rich, or Mr. Anthony to get the story, because I'm not going to tell you.
I taught British Lit to sophomores, and my class was mostly boys. And British Lit and boys, sophomore boys, don't really go together very well. And we got through Canterbury Tales with the promise that if we got through it, they could all dress up in character, and they all pretty much showed up looking in green tights like Robin Hood. We had some pretty crazy senior pranks over the years. Once we came and all the picnic tables were on the roof, we had goldfish in the quads, we had cars in the quad. That's probably it.
Now, was I relaxed or did I give out detentions? I like to think I was relaxed with my students, but yes, I did give out gum and tuck your shirt in detentions quite frequently, as many of you probably remember, but I like to think I was relaxed in my classroom.
So did I give a lot of detentions? Not terribly, not very many. I would probably say a handful, definitely less than 10. But my favorite set of detentions that I gave were when a group of 4 young men, literally in the span of about 6 seconds, and they decided they were going to play tag in between the lab tables. And I turned and I see the shenanigans going on, and I'm like, well, I guess it's detention time.
I was very relaxed. I still am. You know, I give the kids a warning. You know, whatever the deal is. I'm trying to think of the best detention that I gave out. I can't remember. I was really trying to think about this.
I wasn't a detention giver, but I was a good mom glare, and that pretty much nipped it in the bud.
I think I was quite relaxed because Seton at that day, we didn't have detention. The kids pretty much did what they were supposed to do, so I didn't know anything about giving out detentions until after I left Seton. I moved over to Girard and I became the assistant principal, and therefore I was in charge of detentions. The Seton kids were apparently much better than the Girard kids and never needed a detention.
I think my favorite grade is junior year. They're old enough to get my jokes, but not old enough to be, they still hold on to at least a little innocence and a little naivety.
What is my favorite grade to teach? That's a hard question. I wouldn't say favorite per se, but juniors and seniors tend to be a little mature. Freshmen tend to be a little less rowdy. And then there's the sophomores who really think they are the shiz, but they're really not. So there you go.
Freshmen. Definitely freshmen. They come in as these squirrely little kids. You get to know them all, you get to watch them all grow up and then go on their way.
Favorite grade? Well, predominantly I have freshmen and I have seniors. I love them both. I mean, it's hard to say, do you have a favorite? But historically, the past handful of years, it's been that. Freshmen are a lot of fun because they're still new. You can intimidate them a little bit. The seniors are fun because you guys are getting ready to step out in the world and to be able to share a different humor with you. Stories about what the next phase of life for them, what they have the potential to experience.
My favorite grade level during my time at Seton, I taught all 4. I would have to say it would be seniors because the senior curriculum was fun to put together. We had a senior class, honor senior, and AP, and I enjoyed very much choosing the things that we were able to study at that level.
I taught social studies, all of the social studies classes, sophomores, juniors, seniors. Probably liked teaching the seniors the best because you could have the greater interaction with them.
I have taught over 13,000 kids, and so I don't really have a favorite. Those 13,000 include my own 3 kids and one of my son-in-laws, so I'd probably get in trouble if I named one. But definitely I had a favorite class, and that was my first freshman class, the fall of '94, who went on to be the class of '98. And if you could envision a really large-scale breakfast club, that's who they were.
My favorite student. Well, it would be very difficult to narrow it down to one, but I would be in a lot of trouble if I didn't choose Jayla Collins as my favorite student in my years at Seton.
So who's my favorite student? I don't really have favorite students, but I do have a most remembered class, and that would probably be the first class that graduated that I knew, and I met them as sophomores, and so I believe it was a graduating class of 2013 or 12. I don't know, somewhere in there. I forget. But that was Ari Fitzhugh's class, and so there was Clint Evans and Shannon Murphy and Robles and a ton of others, and so they definitely stick in my mind. I'll tell you right now, I'm never not honest. I've been probably brutally honest sometimes, and the answer, in my opinion, to that is no. There is no such thing as a stupid question. But there is something called a lazy question, where you actually don't think about the question before you ask it.
My unequivocal answer is no. Oh, there are questions that are careless, and there are questions that you could probably know the answer to if you just gave it some thought. But sometimes they're impulsive and they come across as stupid. But it's not. It's just impulsive or just careless or just something that you haven't given much thought.
I should sit here and, because I'm still teaching, say no. Yeah, there are. Yeah, there are. So.
Hell yes. There are a lot of stupid questions out there.
Absolutely. A stupid question is a question you ask that had you been listening, you'd have known the answer.
I remember everything, and I'm not going to go through the list of everything.
Well, do I remember everything I taught at Seton? To be or not to be, that is the question. Of course we remember everything we teach. We're not likely to forget everything, but no, I'm sure there are things I have not forgotten. But things that I do remember are service learning projects. Kids worked at St. Peter's. They worked for the veterans. Of course, I remember Les Mis and going to ASU several times to see those productions. I remember a lot of what I taught. And of course, we don't want to forget subject and verb agreement and gerunds and participles. They will never be forgotten.
I'd probably fail my own church history test at this time, but definitely I still remember the study skills curriculum. Fill out your planner, every class, every day, whether you have homework in it or not.
No, I don't remember everything I taught, but there is one thing that I do remember, and that's because I've heard from students since then that they remember it, and that is I taught the verbs to be. How did I teach those verbs to be? I sang them. The verbs to be are am as are was were, be being been, am as are was were, be being been.
I remember the subjects I taught, but the thing that maybe some of you might remember in my American history class was something that came up teaching about the early 1800s, just before the War of 1812, and talking about the impressment of American sailors. If you remember the answer to that, it was that the British soldiers, sailors, were trying to take the Americans or get the Americans to go on over to the British, and so they would dress up in their best uniforms to impress the American sailors.
No, there isn't. I had the opportunity to be a teacher there and a vice principal and a principal. So I got to see and be part of Seton a lot of different levels. And I got to know a lot of different people over those 9 years. And I really can't think of anything that I wish I could have done or wish was different. I really loved it there. There are good people, a great community, and a great spirit. So there's nothing I really significant that I think should be different.
No, not really. I enjoyed my time at sea. It was fun.
You know, being there as long as I have, I've done almost everything. I'm still coaching. I coach the girls golf. I was coaching track a couple years ago. But when I first started teaching, I was coaching softball and volleyball. Believe it or not, for all the people that have played volleyball or softball and think of Mr. Mullen, well, I was a coach before Mr. Mullen. So, anyways. And then I've taught in every classroom of the old campus. Literally almost every space. I've not been taught in the new fine arts building, but in the historic campus, I've taught in every classroom, and every math class I've taught, every business class, every technology class. So, ran student council for a bunch of years, so there's really nothing different. I now, believe it or not, because of this year of the COVID, we're not doing it, but I am the rap moderator. Do I remember the fight song? I do. Seton, Catholic, Sentinels, Roy. Okay. Point of fact with that, I believe, and I'm hoping she is responding to the video, but I believe the original fight song was done by Mrs. Diane Collins.
Do I remember the fight song? Well, of course I remember the fight song. My salsa group, some of you don't remember what salsa is, but some of you will. My salsa group wrote it. We didn't have a fight song, decided we needed one, so they wrote it. They chose the melody, and then over the next couple of weeks, they wrote the lyrics. And then for the next couple of weeks, we went from salsa to teach the other groups the song. So yes, I remember the fight song.
I do remember the fight song and the alma mater, and I could sing them both, but I'm going to spare you.
Well, I could probably do 2 lines of it, and it goes, Seton Catholic Sentinels are we are loyal, true we will ever be.
And what do I miss now that I've been gone all these years? It's working with the kids and my good friends on the staff. It was a privilege and a joy to be a part of all of that.
This may sound strange, but one of the things I would miss, and many of you don't know who I'm going to talk about, but Sister Joan Marie. She was I would call her to her face, the road runner. She just moved around that campus like nobody's business. She was always happy, always fun to be around, and she ran a library excellently. My classroom, I had access to the library, and so I had a lot of interaction with Sister, but she was just a great person. I did miss when I left, not coaching anymore. When I left, we had won the last, 32, 33 games in a row. We were state champs for 3 years in a row. So I felt like we had accomplished a lot, but not on my behalf, or not because of me. I just had the better players.
Well, I'm still here, but I do know that when I do leave, that I will definitely miss the people in the community.
With that, my friends, the coolest part, and that's not a question on here, but the coolest part for me, and I can't even count how many now, seeing you as young kids in school, thinking, watching you grow up to be the leaders you are, and coming back and having you send your kids back to our school, and having the blessing to teach your kids, and seeing when you're a junior and senior, thinking, okay, you're questioning, being a kid of that age, not wanting to turn your back on them, but watching you grow up to be this amazing person today, and then watching your kids model and seeing, here you see the kid that sits in the desk and thinking, I remember where your dad sat or your mom sat. That is the coolest, by far, gift for me, being at the school. So, anyways, everyone, be safe, be healthy. God bless you all, and it's been wonderful being able to share these questions with you. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to visit with you today. I hope everything is going well with you, and God bless. The first question is, what is the craziest thing that happened while at Seton? I don't know if I could come up with the craziest thing, but at least the craziest thing for me was that I coached basketball. One